The deep-sea mining company leading the global push to mine the seafloor in international waters says it could start as early as 2026. This is despite ongoing work to develop proper regulations for the industry. Deep-sea mining involves extracting potato-sized rocks called nodules, which are packed full of valuable metals from the seafloor many kilometers deep. The chief executive of the metals company, Gerard Barron, says he plans to apply for a license in the coming months. Caleb Fotheringham has more.
It's a contentious issue for an industry that hasn't even started yet. Most environmental charities in a growing number of countries oppose deep-sea mining, but the companies and nations keen to see it happen think it is needed if the world is to move away from fossil fuels. On the fringes of the Pacific Islands Forum leaders meeting in Tonga this week, Gerard Barron reiterated his eagerness to start mining soon in the Clarion-Clipperton zone located in the high seas between Hawaii and Mexico. He says they will lodge an application with the International Seabed Authority in the next few months.
Once the regulator receives that and assesses it, we hope that we'll have a permit to move from the exploration phase to the exploitation phase 12 months later. We already have our first production vessel that's been having some amendments made to it to be production ready. We already know where we're going to process the nodules. So it's really just the regulatory hurdles that stand in front of us now.
There are currently no rules set out to regulate mining in the high seas. But the company may be able to get around this stumbling block thanks to Nauru, who gave 2 years' notice of its intention to start mining to the International Seabed Authority. This exploits a legal loophole that forces the UN regulatory body to consider the operational plans of any company sponsored by Nauru, even if regulations have not been developed. Meanwhile, the number of nations calling for a precautionary pause or moratorium on deep-sea mining is growing. Mr. Barron thinks they are misguided.
They're operating on a set of facts that have been fed to them by a select group, mainly NGOs. And what I say to them is, let's be driven by the science. And why don't you see the scientific programs that we're operating and the results that are coming off the back of them?
He believes it's inevitable that ocean metals will be mined.
If there was anywhere to begin this activity, the abyssal plain, more than 1,000 miles away from any living human, or in the deep ocean where the amount of life is measured in grams per square metre, that would be the right place to start this activity.
An ocean campaigner for the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition, Phil McCabe, disagrees with Mr. Barron's interpretation of what the science is saying. He says it supports the call for a moratorium on the industry.
I agree with him. We do need to listen to the science rather than make things up, and we need to look at the science comprehensively, listen to the 800 plus scientists and ocean policy experts that are saying that seabed mining, deep sea mining should not commence until significant knowledge gaps are filled.
He says Mr. Barron saying he will soon apply for a license is because the company is out of cash and the stock price is less than $1.
I think Gerard Barron is keeping his shareholders on the hook and keeping the market on the hook with the expectation that they'll submit an application, because he's been pushing that timeline out for the last 3 or 4 years by 6 months at a time, more or less.
Pacific countries and territories are divided on the issue, with the likes of Nauru, Cook Islands and Tonga all showing at least some interest. In fact, the Cook Islands is into its 3rd year of deep-sea mining exploration, and there has been rumours it was even looking at purchasing its own mining vessel. Its Prime Minister, Mark Brown, says this is not the case.
So those are just rumours?
Certainly. I wish I could afford one. They cost millions of dollars.
Phil McCabe says 5 nations joined the precautionary pause list last month, including Tuvalu.
There's 32 countries now explicitly calling for a moratorium or precautionary pause in international waters. And then on top of that, there's numerous territories, American Samoa, Hawaii, just recently both came out, and other countries like members of the Melanesian Spearhead Group that called for a moratorium in their own waters and in the Pacific region. So I don't think there's any merit in what he's saying there.
Mr. McCabe says he does not blame countries for exploring the economic opportunities of mining, but it doesn't make sense environmentally or economically when you dive into the details.